That's for people listening. We're talking the tech side of the Maniacs. Who owns what?
Who owns what? All these platforms have been around and been bought and sold and owned and changed names and all these different things.
Yeah, I mean, what's next? You know?
Streaming for the Maniacs.
Yes, we're not for sale. Just to let y'all know that who's watching.
Not yet, anyway.
Right, that at this time. However, 19 billion, 20 billion, that may sway the deal. Cashmere TV is not for sale. However, if the nine figures are right, it may be considered.
Right, right. All right.
Okay, I'm getting us together here.
All right. I think we are ready to go.
All right.
So yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, we are ready to rock and roll. I'm figure something out on this side. I'm gonna let Darnell go ahead and get started. Hey, everybody, this is Streaming Maniacs. This is kind of the pre-show. We just getting started. And last week we had some issues that we were contending with on the bandwidth side. So we decided this week that we were going to just go ahead and redo last week. And so let us know if you're watching. I am not streaming to Instagram just because Instagram just doesn't look right for a two-man stream. So we're going to just stream this. I think today we're going to Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. So I'm going to actually get LinkedIn up and going while Darnell is getting the process going on his side since he turned his camera back on. And
I'm sharing. I'm trying to share with people real quick because it's lunchtime, so this is our lunchtime special.
I know.
And y'all have to excuse the lighting up here because we're still under construction here at our studio.
It's funny when you said lighting up here and then you scratched your head. I thought you was going bald.
No. I'm going grayer. I don't know if I gained some gray over here this last couple of days. Launching literally 3 websites. Well, launching 2 and cleaning up another one, removing certain things off the album because we officially launched Cashmere TV, and it's on the platform, so you see it all the time. CashmereTV.com had to get that going, and I'm pretty excited about that. It's a different kind of site. Cashmere is actually a different kind of brand for me. Honestly, it's a little different in how it flows after years of having B2 and Beacon going. Beacon is still going. BTV is going. It's just Cashmere is a whole different experience and user model. So we're trying something new there. So what we're going to do is we're going to reset what we started last week, which we were talking about basically triggers, scripting, and how to make an efficient stream. And so we're going to go back to that. We're going to talk about that. And so let me get my notes out here from last week. And we are going to, now I'm not going to be as tech as I was last week. I know last week I was super tech. And this week I'm going to do my best and not be super tech. And I'm going to try to do this in 10 minutes.
What's funny is you was super tech and the internet wasn't working with the tech, so I guess it all works out.
Yeah, it did. It worked out. So we're going to make it the right way. And here we go, my notes. And so basically, part 1, we're going to talk about triggers. Triggers, and we're talking about vMix is the platform that we're talking about today. vMix is the primary platform that I use for everything. So I'm going to try to locate my mouse. It's somewhere. It's gotta be today. Has to be Friday, right?
Has to be.
I'm going to share my screen. We're going to get on with this party here. Let's get this going. And now, those who don't know about the platform we're using, is actually a really nice platform. I mean, it's like I've been having a great time with it. There's so much stuff you can do on here. Now you should see my screen shared.
And today, so we officially named our this part of the platform Cloud Connect. So it's our browser based platform, and so and it allows us to do screen share. So this is the simple way to stream without having to use a encoder.
Yes.
We're using a web-based encoder, using WebRTC, built directly into our platform, which allows you to go to multiple platforms as well. So as we continue to mention on each podcast, for more information, you can go to Cloud TV or cloudlive.tv for more information. And if you're following us on Instagram, or if you're following us on, actually, we just set up a new Facebook page for Streaming Maniacs. So go and follow that Streaming Maniacs Facebook page. However, we're not able to stream to that page yet because Facebook wouldn't allow us to yet. So
we'll talk about that, because this is going to be something we'll talk about that prayerfully right after this here short presentation. Because like I said, it's going to be short and to the point and give me that. So yes, we're going to have to talk to them today about why you may be having problems trying to go live on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I am going to create an input here. And so I just created a generic input. We're going to go over that real quick. And so one of the things that if anyone, the best thing I can tell you to see triggers in action is to watch CashmereTV.com, or just go to live.cloudlive.tv and watch us there. And you can see during Proclaim Faith videos, just check the schedule. There is a schedule that's on there. It's slowly being updated as today goes on. You'll actually see the triggers in action. You can hear them in action. So what are triggers? You're saying triggers are essentially ways of controlling events in vMix. So right here, you have the trigger menu. Just to keep it simple, they have on here, they have on completion, transition in, transition out. Whenever something starts in vMix, you set a trigger. So what we do basically is I have a lot of inputs. So I may want to have a trigger that starts playing an input. So I'll tell the trigger, okay, well, I want you to go ahead on transition in. I want you to play. Now, because there's so many things on here, you can actually search. You can just do all and then type in play or start. So you do play. And sorry about that. My phone's getting a text message. And then you select the input that you want to play whenever the transition comes in. So I'll just randomly pick one. I'll say play a logo. Then you hit add. Now, in the case of us doing like audio transitions from this, basically when your program starts, you want to have a nice slow audio transition. You stack your transitions. And to do that, you set it through your delays. Delays are built in milliseconds. So it's 500 milliseconds, a half a second. 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. So you would set your delays based on how you wanted to step down if you're not using scripting. So what we did on ours especially with Cashmere, Proclaim Faith videos, we have it as soon as the Proclaim Faith video comes in, it detects it. So it's an input called videos. The videos input triggers an open. That open has all the events, everything that input has to do to get the show on the air and get it running. Includes rewinding the playlist, because we keep our video list running all the time. So restarting the existing video that's in the queue, turn on the audio of that video so you can hear at a certain point. So we have that set in a certain amount of time to do that. So triggers is a great tool. And then on transition out, we do a whole bunch of other things. So triggers is one way of having some good effects, some good things. Like I said, if we want to go more advanced, you have to contact us. We can take you a little more advanced. This is a quick overview. The next element that is, we're going to leave the triggers for now. Unless anyone, we don't have any questions here, so I can't really answer unless Mike has some questions.
What's the difference between triggers and shortcuts?
Okay. A trigger is something that takes place right when that input is active or deactivated. So you have a transition in output, a trigger, and a transition out. Shortcuts are usually keyboard, Stream Deck, even Xbox controllers, PowerPoint controllers. So you can do a whole lot with shortcuts, X keys. Shortcuts are basically, you can push a button. Like if you have a shortcut, like mapping, let's say F7 on your keyboard, F7, say that starts, it puts a graphic up. The shortcut just by hitting F7 will put that graphic up. So that's what a shortcut does. The trigger basically is once the input, it just has a list of instructions for vMix to do these things. Again, Cashmere is extremely trigger based. There aren't really any shortcuts there because it's run by itself. I use a lot of shortcuts on our podcast that we do every other week. There's a ton of shortcuts on there for putting up graphics, especially Stream Deck, which we'll talk about Stream Deck because Stream Deck has a lot of features, a lot of power that you can tap into. But yeah, shortcuts they can be your best friend. Now, if I remember correctly, there's one letter that cannot be mapped in vMix shortcuts. I believe that's the letter A. Don't know why, but the letter A, though it shows up in the shortcut list, you can't have the letter A as a shortcut. Now, speaking of shortcuts, if you do shortcuts, let's go to the shortcuts. And let's leave that. Let's look at shortcuts. So right here is my shortcut list. I'm not sure how well everyone can see it. However, these are the shortcuts that we use just for my Stream Deck. And my Stream Deck has several different controls that it does, as well as I don't think I have any keyboard shortcuts. I don't have any keyboard shortcuts in here. So for me, mainly everything is Stream Deck. However, you can structure it to where if your Stream Deck is not working or if it's not communicating and you're running into a situation, you can duplicate a shortcut. You can clone it and you can assign it to a keyboard function. Now, I do that at great faith. I slowly migrate away from it because I'm working remotely and I don't want anyone to accidentally touch the keyboard. I've had that happen where, early on, I would map the space bar to cut. And needless to say, that was not a smart idea. And I ended up a couple times hitting the space bar and taking to the preview. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you're in a switcher situation. If you're in a production situation, yes. If you're in a streaming situation, you have to go into your shortcuts and disable the space bar by unticking the checkbox on the there's a little checkbox here, and that right there controls it. Now I did the same thing here because there is a little hiccup with my PTZ camera I have in Stream Deck using the shortcuts, where if I push the button, it will actually move the camera and keep moving it. So I disabled that. So on my Stream Deck, I don't accidentally go to that page and hit that button. Since we're over here, let's go over to scripting. And then I'm completed. It's pretty much simple today. I have a client who is blind. And I have to send him a tone. So what we did is I created a shortcut, a relatively simple shortcut. And like it basically on my Stream Deck or on the keyboard assignment shortcut, I push a button and it turns on the audio and sends him a feed. So it'll shoot him a beep, only he can hear. It doesn't go over in the stream because we use vMix Call for him when he has to do productions versus using the Zoom plugin that's on vMix. Through vMix Call, I'm able to map that audio, that tone directly to him. So it'll beep and it turns, which we have a 1 kilohertz tone or any kind of tone on there. You can even have your voice recorded ironically and say, have a countdown if you want and just have a button that will push it. You push a button and it'll do the countdown for you, or you can set up your mic to also communicate. But we use scripting to do that. Now, you can do it if you don't have, scripting only works in vMix 4K and above. So you literally will have to either map it through another process. Again, we can show you all how to do all that. Just contacting us because it's so concise and it really, we don't want to spend too much time. I don't want to be as technical as I was last week because I think I went over a lot of people's heads. And today I'm trying not to go over anyone's head. So we're going to keep it simple today. And pretty much that's what I have today.
There you go, man. Well, that's good. One thing, when you're using triggers for different things, it increases the value of your workflow. So like that way you don't have to do as much manually. So a lot of triggers when you using it for like audio transitions, different things like that, it really just gives you a better workflow overall. This is what I like in terms of using triggers. One scenario that I like is the fact that you can use triggers when it comes to transitioning from like for me, I use playlists a lot. So I will run my playlist on the open because I'll stack all my videos there for my
Yes.
intro. And then after that, then I can basically use my playlist to run everything. And then my audio for my main camera feeds are off. That way, if we doing mic checks and behind the scenes, nobody's hearing the mic checks come through over the stream. And then after that playlist, it kicks in. So like, for instance, if you're using a countdown, right, and you have your countdown set up to automatically transition to your live camera feed after the countdown completes, you can have your audio switch in with your live feed. So that's one of the things that I use triggers for is and it's what's funny is sometimes when you go in to set them up, set up your triggers, you need to make sure you set it up to follow correctly.
Yes.
I've done it a few times and it was like, oh wait, I used the wrong one, and my audio didn't transition like it should, or the video was supposed to fade out and didn't. So you just have to make sure within your presets, depending on how many presets you have on your specific vMix machine. Like I have I think 15 different presets. We have some clients that we do stuff for regularly, so I just build those in. And then when we're doing stuff for them, we can open up and do that. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the vMix desktop capture.
Yes.
Because it's a tool that I use. So as you can see, I just switched to my desktop, which I'm pulling in from my other vMix machine. I'm using desktop capture. This will allow you to, if you want, just depends. Using NDI sources, bringing things in over the network allows you to build and expand your workflow without having to put so much use on one machine. So you can stack vMix in that way. And so in this case, I have vMix on that one, and then I can open up my vMix on that and I can do things in there as well. But as you can see, I'm able to fade back over to my live camera. So so just, you can download that software. Oftentimes you see it. One of the questions that I get, and Darnell, I don't know if you get this question, but it's a pretty common question, which is vMix compatible with Mac? vMix is not built to run on Mac. However, the vMix desktop capture will. So a lot of times when people go to the vMix site, they'll get confused because it tells you that it's not, but then they have a vMix desktop capture for Mac. So, but it's only for that. Now, do I know people who have installed Windows on Macs and have run vMix on Windows? Yes. And has it worked? Absolutely. Would I do it? No. And there's several reasons why I wouldn't do it. However, I have had clients do it and it successfully worked. I do recommend, though, that you are kind of more advanced in using software tools on Mac and PC, and just really most of the people that I know who have done it, they've all been people who are in IT, or they just have a really well-rounded working knowledge of how to get things to work through integrating software in different platforms. So that would be one of the things that I would recommend. As we continue to talk over the next couple of weeks, we will ramp up from simple to more advanced. But I wanted to bring those things up because those are some of the common questions that that I get. Speaking of common questions, Darnell, what's some of the common questions that you get overall, just when it comes to streaming outside of the software? But what's, you've worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients. What's some of the common questions that you get when it comes to streaming?
What kind of computer do I need? And my favorite one is, can I stream over Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
I usually tell people one, a gamer class PC. Number two, I do not recommend Wi-Fi streaming unless you're out somewhere where you can't get a hard wire. because the bit rates that's required, especially in hotels. Hotels are the worst place to say I'm gonna do a stream and I'm gonna do a Wi-Fi. You might as well record it and run it through the scheduling system available at Cloud Live, and schedule it as live, because you're not going to get a really good signal. I have a client who literally pays for his internet at the hotels. So he goes to hotels that will provide a hard line. Hard lines in hotels can go anywhere from $50 to $500 to $1,000 per connection. I'm not sure, depending on the hotel, however you do it. Maybe if you're there for 3 days, they may say, hey, we'll do the connection for $500. Usually you will pay for the hardwire. However, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
During Wi-Fi, and people say, oh, stuttering is going out. My feed is dropping, because you're on Wi-Fi. You can't depend on it. I have Wi-Fi at home and I have hardwire. It's very rare that I stream on Wi-Fi. Everything here is hardwired in. My contractor had to roll the wire downstairs because we're temporarily wired. However, everything has to be wired. And the better the internet, do speed tests every once in a while. One thing I like about Stream Deck is it's got you can actually download a speed test button and push it, and it gives you your speed. And usually I just hit it now to see how long it takes. But it will give you a pretty accurate speed test what your internet is. I've done streaming at the Aretha Franklin. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi was so bad I actually had to tie it into my cell phone and stream it out at 1K. And I recorded it, but I had to stream it out at 1K. That was horrible. And but it got out, but it just wasn't at the quality that should have been. However, nobody ordered the internet. I've been in situations like that. But the most common two questions are, can I do Wi-Fi, and what kind of computer? I just did a new system for a client that I'm joining their team, another pastor here in town. And he just purchased a brand new computer, and it was an i7, and I forgot which GPU. GPUs are also important too. Make sure you have a GPU, which is a graphics card. And I had to make sure the laptop had the right type, and they had a really decent one, great memory. And I got him set up, and he's ready to go. Oh, and I kept it simple with him.
Yeah, we definitely recommend staying away from the onboard graphics cards if you can. Not that they won't work, but
right.
You definitely, really want to go with the NVIDIA cards, and specifically NVIDIA, because the AMD cards do not work with those cards don't work. Not the processors, but their cards don't work with vMix.
Yeah, you may get a lot of different things, and that's more of the advanced too, because we got to show you how to set up your vMix, where there's certain settings you have to do. So everything I do is NVIDIA. My laptop is running an NVIDIA GTX. I'm trying to see what model. The sticker's worn off, but it's an NVIDIA GTX. And then I have another laptop that has an NVIDIA graphics card, and it has the IBM graphics. And so most laptops come with a built-in motherboard graphics card and a second graphics card that's usually NVIDIA. So you always want to go into vMix. And again, we'll go more in advanced later, but there's a way you can tell vMix only use NVIDIA, because vMix changed their process over the years. We've been with vMix for a long time. It used to be you go into your settings menu in vMix, and you would go, okay, well, you can select it there. However, rules change with operating systems, change security procedures. So now everything's managed through Windows. So you would go in there and set that up. Another quick thing, I want to circle back to the triggers real quick. I just thought about this. When you do triggers, if you have something that takes 5 seconds you need to happen, make sure this is something I had to learn the hard way. When it's on transition in, if you need 5,000 milliseconds, you add another element that's 2,200 milliseconds. You got to subtract it from that 5,000. So that 5 seconds. So you got to subtract the time from that. So if you want all your events to happen within 10 seconds, you have to add up what needs to happen within that 10 seconds, and all of it has to add up to 10 seconds. If you don't, if you have a 10-second trigger, another 10-second trigger, another one, do you do a 30-second, that's a minute. And you're going to go, well, why isn't this working? Because you added up 1 minute. So triggers are stacked in the order, and you need to do it in the proper order. Again, I would say watch Kashmir. Kashmir TV is 100% trigger. When the station ID comes up, the up next comes up, it's triggered. And within those triggers, it has a stack of triggers that keeps the bug off the screen, the branding bug off the screen for, I think, 2 minutes.
So in this case, you're running Kashmir TV as a 24/7. I just want to give some overview so that they understand. You run it as a 24/7, and here's what you're doing as far as that goes. And then with that, it's triggering your playlist script based off of what you're running within Kashmir, but you're using vMix to run your 24/7 network.
Correct. Through a scheduling software which I've rewritten. It's been the schedule system. Mac Yeager wrote it, and I've actually birthed it further than Mac Yeager, who wrote it originally. But there's triggers, and each trigger, everything has to stay in the input. So those inputs stay in there. vMix adds the input of the show as needed. However, the triggers is extremely triggered. Not to sound negative trigger, because nowadays, but if you watch Kashmir TV, you can see triggers in action. It's 100% a lot of triggering going on there. So take a listen. Go on over there and watch that, see triggers in action. And again, if you have questions, we want you all to just join our Facebook groups, join and visit all our social platforms, like, share, please share. I don't need please, but share our information, because we're going to have a whole lot more coming up as we continue the podcast, because I know it's getting late over here. And hopefully when we come back next week or in 2 weeks, depending on how fast my contractor gets everything done. Shout out to Walt. And he's a really good guy. He's up there in age, but he still does. He likes to work, and he's in his early 70s or mid 70s, and he's still hammering away. He had a little assistant, he's a perfectionist, and I like that. And some of these younger guys today are not keen to details, and he's very keen to the details. So we have a nice floor in our house, and it's taking time. So hopefully we'll have our set put back together. We have some reviews I'm going to do on some lighting. We talked about that. And then let's go over this real quick thing on Facebook. We discovered something. If you start a Facebook group, you have to make sure you're engaging in that group before you can go live, which means I told my wife, I said, when we first started our podcast Facebook group, we could never go live. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. And we just started engaging in there. We started adding people, and all of a sudden, like 30 days or 45 days after doing a lot of engagement, we were able to go live. So if you start a new Facebook group or page, group. Facebook page, make sure that you're engaging on that page, meaning constantly posting, because you will not be able to go live until you fit the criteria. The problem is they don't tell you what the criteria is. So
yeah, they don't. That's because there is no criteria.
Right. It's 2024. We don't know if it's dealing with all the social situations going on here in the world, where maybe they just don't want people starting a page and going live. I'm not sure what it is. However, they've tightened their buckles.
Yeah. Well, we definitely know it's within the last I would say couple months. I launched a page not too long ago for Light and Truth TV, and I was able to stream to it pretty much right away. And then when I launched the Streaming Maniacs page, for some reason, that's when I noticed that error. And it's very important that you know that, because if you are launching a new page, right, not your existing page, if you are launching a new page, then you want to make sure you know that it's not an error, it's not a problem. Now, what I do understand from what we read is that you can still stream from a mobile device. And that's kind of how YouTube used to be, whereas once you set it up, you had to stream from a mobile device first, and then you were able to go live. That was years and years ago, I think, when they first kind of launched it. But But anyway, sorry about that. I kind of cut you
Well,
off.
YouTube flipped it. Now you have to do it from a computer, not a mobile device.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
they flipped it. Now it's the other way around. You can't use your mobile device, but you can do it from your computer.
yeah.
So it's a lot of things going on in the world. If I discovered something as building our websites for Cashmere, as I decided, like I said, Cashmere is a whole different system. Need a salesperson. Worked for commission only.
That's how I started my career, man. Was commission only, man.
Yeah, it's not little pennies add up to dollars. However, even AdSense has even buckled down on their accounts. So if you're a new person, you start a website, I want to do I want to have advertisements. They are buckling down. They're not running ads on platforms that are for or against the war or controversial towards the war overseas. So you have a lot of political things that are happening. So I said this may be political because so much is happening. Everything we're seeing with the restrictions or the limitations may be due to the fact that they're just trying to keep things under control as much as possible.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make it through this year, and they'll release the rules.
And that's the thing. So one of the key components is if you are not streaming now and you're looking for a streaming provider, you can use Cloud Live TV, and you don't have to worry about any restrictions. We will push your content out, and you can have it where you want it to be, and then also even in your own environment, streaming directly to your website. And bring your own community in. And then if you have content that you want to monetize, our platform is designed to do that as well. See, people are calling right now. That might be that salesperson that you was trying to get.
I don't know. It was our favorite person.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I should have muted real quick and say, hey, you want to say something?
I know. Yeah, that would be cool. We can bring him into the podcast. In real time. I'll send them the link. Say, hey, join us. But yeah, it's look, we're excited about streaming. Darnell basically are taking these calls. In fact, now I'm getting a call. So
he's probably calling you.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Darnell talk while I take this call. I'm gonna mute real quick.
Yeah, so there's so much going on here with the podcast and streaming world. Like I said, we try to do this within a certain amount of time, but I believe the person who called me probably called him. So it's so much that happens when you're live and you're streaming, and people, they reach out to us for help. There's so much that we do here in the streaming world. I recently had a call and they asked me, they called me up, a person called me and said, do you do streaming? I was like, yes, I do. I do streaming. So we get those questions constantly.
Well, one of the questions, speaking of common questions, so one of the common questions that I get, you broke it down about the computer. One of the ones that I get often after you get past the computer is, what type of camera do I need? And that is always a challenge, because depending on who's asking the question and what the particular workflow is how we determine what type of camera or cameras do you need. I happened to be at a location yesterday, and this happened to be a church, and they're looking to upgrade their system. But one of the things that I noticed is they're using a HD camera that's down converted to standard definition. I mean, I think this is the first time that I've seen an S video cable in probably, yeah, exactly. So I was like, wow, so it's not just the camera necessarily that can impact the quality of your stream. However, you do want to make sure to use the right type of camera for the right type of setup, right? I don't recommend, going out and buying a super expensive camera if you are doing something similar to what we're doing right now. But I do recommend using a quality camera, and those come in all shapes and sizes, right? And costs. So it just depends on what it is that you want to do in terms of your workflow. So as you look over my shoulder, you'll probably see a PTZ camera. That's a 20X camera. which we install in, multiple different churches. Now they have the 4K Move camera, and they just came out with this new software called Hive that'll allow the cameras to be controlled from the cloud from anywhere in the world, which I think is really cool. That's a little bit more advanced, right? And can work in some environments. Or you may be doing something like this where a Logitech webcam might work for you, right? Or you may use, something a little bit better than that. I personally do not like webcams. And I've seen a lot of them. I think Elgato makes a really good one, and PTZ Optics actually makes a pretty good one. But I'm not a webcam person. I just don't like them. So I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm just saying that I probably won't use one. Now, the convenience of using a webcam is you don't need a capture card. You just USB in. So that could be, capture card can be an additional cost. And you can find capture cards for as little as $50 and as much as, $500.
Or higher.
Yeah, or higher, depending on the capture card. I tend to use quality capture cards. I don't think I've used any capture card under $200. Now, the other thing is you can use something like a Blackmagic ATEM switcher, which is basically a capture card that allows you to connect multiple cameras. So if you have a multiple camera setup that you're trying to do, depending on what cameras you select, you could do that as well. And so these are different questions that I generally get. And normally the questions start off pretty simple, but then they become more advanced as you start to uncover some of the use cases and what needs are. So in this case, as a simple broadcast, it's browser based, right? While we're using vMix, we don't have to. We can simply close vMix and we'll still be able to bring our camera in because it'll see it in the browser, and then we use our platform to stream it directly. Or if I was on something as simple as my mobile phone, if I was on my iPhone, I would be able to do the same thing. Or if I was on my iPad, I would be able to do the same thing. It allows me to go live from wherever I am, no matter what device I'm using. And then the other question that I generally get is audio. What type of microphone do I need, right? And again, it all depends on what it is that you're trying to do. What your setting is, what your environment's like. All of those things make a huge difference. As you can see, I'm using a Rode Pod mic, and hopefully the quality sounds amazing. And Darnell is using Samson, and so we are using different mics, right, to give people an opportunity to kind of hear, right, how it sounds with the equipment that we're using. And this mic is only like $99. So if you're doing a podcast and you're looking for a good podcast mic, and this is not a paid, advertisement, but I do think that this Rode mic is a pretty good one for the cost. And, I think it sounds pretty good, but you guys let us know in the comments what you think. And while we're talking about common questions, if you have any common questions, leave them in the comments and we'll address them each week. And while we're live, if you happen to drop them in there, we'll address them while we're live. And so, yeah.
Yeah, nothing's coming in on the comments.
Wait, it says great information. Cam is watching his pop talk about media and is invested. That's cool, man. My grandson is watching. And so shout out to Cam. Love you, grandson. Thank you for watching. You might be the only viewer that we have today. So
no, we got some more. We have some more. They just haven't said anything.
There you go. He the future of the company, man. So we gotta, give him a shout out. So appreciate him for watching.
Yes, and then when it comes to mics and cameras, I actually have a Nexigo cam, which is technically a webcam. However, it has a Sony sensor, and it has that webcam look, which is. I actually have some Logitech C920 somewhere in this house, and I'm going to debox them because I have other uses for those cases. Because I switched over. I talked to the chief engineer at Impact. He says, you need to do everything with Sony sensors. And so every camera I get, low end is Sony sensor. The next thing I'll say, okay, I'll try because I was just tired of webcams. And that camera actually we started our podcast out with it. Garrison House started in our first floor studio. It has the Nexigo. Up here, we have an IUZ PTZ camera, also with the Sony sensor. So I'm using products here that you may want to get. My field kit is Marshall. I use a Marshall PTZ. And so I'm testing on my end these products that some people may have never heard. Mike has the PTZ optics. I'm playing around with Marshall. We both do Black Magic Design stuff. I mean, I could break that out. But yeah, capture cards. My favorite capture card is the Magwell, and it gets hot, but it's a good card. And my favorite audio capture, I have 3 different ones that I've used, so I can pretty much tell you which ones work. I have 1 generic, 2 of 1 generic. I have another one, a Personas, and I have an M Audio. We just did a test with the M Audio this week. Worked beautifully. My client, I just got him. I forgot which one we got him, and it worked great. So we try to have different tests, including the lighting that's behind me, even how to make your set look nice. Though the lighting in front of me isn't that great, but the lighting behind me looks okay.
Before you leave the audio, because you're talking about the interfaces, I'm using today my Personas as well. And for years, I've used the Personas, and I've had people say, "Oh man, you need to get off of it. It's crap. Use the Focusrite." And Focusrite is not bad. I actually think it's actually a pretty good device. However, I bought one that's crap, and I did a video on it, and if you follow us on YouTube, you'll see it. But watch it. That thing, it cuts in and out. I mean, like if I talk for 5 minutes, it goes out, and then I have to reset it, and then it comes back up. And I've put them in a couple places. They've never had problems. I've had problems with mine from the day I got it out the box. And maybe, I should have did something different, but I also have a Zoom H6. So next week, what I'll do is when we stream live, I'll use my Zoom H6. Maybe I'll actually use my Focusrite as well. I'll connect both of them
and see which one does it
and see what happens. But I'll use my Zoom H6. I do like it better than my Personas, because you have a little bit more ability to tweak, and you can record to it. So if you want to take, from, your podcast or whatever, if you're recording live, you can take that out in the field, runs on battery. You can use it that way. However, you cannot use it as an interface and record at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. So,
okay. Yeah. Cause I know I had the Zoom multi-channel, the actual board.
Yeah.
And that's what we were going to actually have up here. Unfortunately, I could not. Zoom mixers, not the Zoom. These are different companies, by the way. I don't know how they got away with that. However, Zoom sound audio.
Yeah, one is X and one is Z.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we have here on mine is, I think the reason we didn't use it, I could not hear from the computer and talk at the same time. And I have I forgot which board. I think it's like 12 input board, records 12 tracks of audio, and it has 4 outputs. So I can have a band up here and mix it basically and record them individually.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When you start getting into gear, it can become a process, right?
And money.
Yeah, it can become expensive too. But that's why we do what we do, right? We do all the testing and all of these things so that you don't have to. And we stream in Maniacs, man. So when it comes to streaming, we go crazy over stuff. If you look behind me, every single thing that you see is in use somewhere throughout the studio. So it's not just there for decoration and design. It's what we use. So like when Darnell, like right now I'm using a Canon. This is actually the Canon RP that I use for stuff like this. But I shoot primarily in Canon for post-production work as well. But I do have the Blackmagic Studio live camera. And of course, I have the PTZ optics cameras, which is good for mobile setups when you're going out to do stuff, because if you're not using multiple people to manage cameras, then that way you can do everything using the joystick and you can manage it that way. So it just gives you a little bit more flexibility. And that's why I said it depends on what it is that you're doing, based on, how you navigate your workflow. So, but today I am super excited because as we get ready to close out, I think this has been our best stream bandwidth wise over the last 4 streams. Last week was so bad I actually just took it down because it was just choppy and going in and out. But I think my conversation with Comcast must have yielded us some fruit because this week it seems to have gone very well. And I'm pretty pleased with, what we have. And as you see, Darnell was moving his camera around, getting it adjusted just right for him. I don't have the liberty. Mine is in a fixed position. And the only way that I'm going to be able to change it if I reach across my screen and do it that way. And I'm just glad that my autofocus is working very well. Shout out to Canon RP users. I actually like this camera. It's a full frame camera, that's under, I want to say it's under $1,000, depending on what lens and stuff like that you use. But yeah, so I like it. It's been very good to me. I was one of the first early adopters of the Canon R series when they first came out with the Canon R. So I bought the R and the RP. I like them both. They've discontinued the R, but the RP is still on the market. So, but if you can get a Canon R, not that this is a paid promotion because it's not, but I would recommend getting it. That's my personal recommendation.
That we don't want the paid promotion.
Absolutely. So Canon, if you watching,
and IUZ and Samsung and Amuse, we are available for
PreSonus.
Yeah, PreSonus.
I think all the names we dropped.
Audio. All y'all can just, checks. We do have an address.
Focusrite. If you want to get it right, you can send me a new one, and then we can talk good about your product.
And vMix, even though we're cool with Martin, Martin's good people.
Yeah, we resell vMix, so
that week, you can't get vMix, and then I was controlling my camera through vMix, so my PTZ is controlled through there, so I can pan it over and do all this fun stuff, and it's actually pretty fun. I'm glad I made that move, but I guess we're done because we have gone over as usual.
I know, man. We have gone over as usual, but hey, it's fun. Thomas said that this has been the best one so far. So yeah, I think the connection has really stayed well on this one. And man, but it's been good so far. I think we've been going for about 45 minutes or so. And it's been a good podcast. So we will maximize our system, continue to introduce you guys to what we do on our workflow side and how we manage our stream. And it will get more polished over time. Right now, we're just doing the basic bare bones. So you can see that you can start with the simplest setup as possible, and then you can grow into a more advanced streaming operation. And so, because trust me, we can get super, super, super into the weeds on all the different things that you can do. So if you have any common questions, feel free to reach out. We are the Streaming Maniacs, Michael and Darnell. We are excited about bringing this content out to you each week live. We're going to start running some contests and doing some giveaways as well. So you want to make sure that you subscribe, and follow, and like and share. Make sure you make comments because that'll help us kind of get out there as well. We want to make sure that we are, really leading the way in the streaming industry of sharing information with people that can be shared in the most simplest form and make you feel like, man, I could be a part of the streaming community. So whether you're a novice or, super advanced, we're going to bring it to you. And so in front of your camera today is the Streaming Maniacs. So we'll see you guys next week, and we are out.